The greatest crime against the American mind wasn't committed by foreign spies. It wasn't some shadowy cabal in a back alley. It was signed, stamped, and funded by your own government. Right here. In 1953, the CIA turned your neighbors, your family, maybe even you, into lab rats. Thousands of them. Unwitting, unknowing. And I have the proof bleeding from these pages. Forget conspiracy theories. This is their confession. Cold, bureaucratic ink detailing the systematic shattering of human souls under a project they called MKUltra. This isn't history. This is the poison in the well we're still drinking from. And they got away with it. Look. CIA internal memo. Document 17,748. Dated August 15, 1953. Listen to the dry, soulless language of monsters. Project MKUltra, Subproject 3. Objective: test behavioral modification techniques using lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD-25, on unwitting human subjects in normal life settings. Unwitting. They said the quiet part loud. No consent. No warning. Just dosing. Like spraying bugs. $25 million. 80 institutions. Your kid's university? Probably on the list. Your grandma's hospital? Check. The prison down the road? Absolutely. Funded by your tax dollars. Orchestrated by men in crisp suits who went home to dinner with their families after signing off on psychological torture. This wasn't fringe science. This was the beating heart of American power deciding its citizens were raw material. Expendable. They called it research. I call it the largest, most brutal program of human experimentation ever conducted on American soil. And the architect? Sidney Gottlieb. A mild-mannered chemist with a club foot and a soul blacker than pitch. His signature is on the order to destroy the evidence. But some truths are too heavy to shred. Picture it. Stanford University, 1962. Sunshine ambition. The future gleaming bright. A young Ken Kesey, the guy who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, needs $20. Who doesn't? A professor offers it. Just take this little pill for perception research. Harmless, right? That pill was pure LSD. Courtesy of MKUltra. Kesey's trip wasn't just inspiration. It was government-sponsored chemical assault. That's the banality of it. Harvard. Prestigious Harvard. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, years before the bombs, was a guinea pig there. Subjected to relentless psychological attacks designed to break his sense of self. McGill University in Montreal. 15 state mental hospitals, places where the vulnerable were locked away, perfect for predators in lab coats. 37 military bases. Soldiers sworn to protect, injected with God knows what without their knowledge. In Kentucky State Prison. They chose black inmates. Why? Because who would believe them? Who would care? 77 consecutive days. 77 days of being force-fed LSD. Trapped in a waking nightmare while men in white coats watched, took notes, measured the disintegration. 77 days. Imagine the terror. The fractured reality. The permanent scars carved into minds deemed disposable. This wasn't science. This was sanctioned sadism operating out of the most trusted places in America. Let me make this personal. Let me rip away the sterile documents and show you the human cost. Linda MacDonald. A young mother. 5 beautiful children. Postpartum anxiety. She sought help. Trusted the system. Went to the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal. Dr. Ewan Cameron. A man lauded by his peers. He put her into a drug-induced coma. Not for hours. Not for days. 486 days. This was Linda. Vibrant. Alive. When they finally dragged her back, she was an empty shell. The light behind her eyes? Gone. She didn't recognize her husband. Her own children ran to her arms, and she recoiled. Strangers. Terrifying strangers. She had to be retaught everything. How to eat. How to use the toilet. How to be a person. At 25 years old, Linda MacDonald spent the rest of her life, decades, clawing through fog trying to find the woman she was. The mother she had been. She died still lost. Still searching. Never remembering the sound of her baby's laugh. They stole her life twice. First her mind, then her time. And Frank Olson. CIA biochemist. A good man, they say. A family man. At a retreat in 1953, his colleagues, following MKUltra protocols, slipped LSD into his after-dinner Cointreau. A prank. A test on a witting colleague, they claimed later. But Frank wasn't witting. And he wasn't laughing. The drug triggered a profound psychological crisis. Paranoia. Terror. 9 days later, he was found dead on the sidewalk below his 10th floor New York hotel room. The official story? Suicide. Jumped through a closed window? Bullshit. For 40 years, the Olson family fought through lies. Finally, in 1994, they exhumed Frank. The second autopsy? Frank Olson was beaten unconscious before he went through that window. Blunt force trauma to the head. His death wasn't suicide. It was termination. Cleanup. Because Frank Olson knew too much and his breakdown made him a liability. Linda MacDonald. Frank Olson. These weren't volunteers. These weren't criminals. These were Americans. Your neighbors. People who trusted their doctors. Trusted their government. Trusted the institutions built to protect them. That trust was weaponized against them. Their minds were the battlefield and they never even knew the war had begun. Nixon's crumbling. Watergate's blowing open the septic tank of government secrets. CIA Director Richard Helms looks at the MKUltra files, mountains of evidence detailing decades of crimes against American citizens, and sees only one solution: fire. 7 boxes. 20 years of meticulous records. Thousands of victim files. The operational details. The names. The proof. Gone. Reduced to ash and confetti. An act of breathtaking criminality committed to protect the institution. Then came the charade. The 1977 Senate hearings. The Church Committee. Sidney Gottlieb, the mastermind, sits there. Cool. Collected. Under oath. The man who greenlit dosing children, pregnant women, prisoners, soldiers, and mental patients. The man who likely ordered Frank Olson's murder. He doesn't recall being concerned. And the consequences? Justice. Prison sentences? Accountability? Zero. None. Gottlieb retired comfortably. Others faded away. Decades later, a few paltry settlements were wrung out, blood money paid to families shattered beyond repair. A slap on the wrist for genocide of the soul. The message was clear: the state is above the law. Your mind is its property. But the poison didn't stay contained in the labs. It seeped out. It metastasized. In San Francisco, 1967, Haight-Ashbury, ground zero for the summer of love, peace, love, psychedelics, and a CIA laboratory disguised as a hippie crash pad. Run by Dr. Louis Jolyon West. His Haight-Ashbury project, filed under MKUltra subprojects. A real-time experiment on a generation. Who gets released from federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana in March 1967? Charles Manson. Where does he go? Straight to Haight-Ashbury. Manson spends that summer soaking up the scene, absorbing the chaos, learning the dark art of psychological manipulation in the heart of a CIA-funded laboratory. 2 years later, his followers, seemingly ordinary young people, commit the Tate LaBianca murders. Brutal. Ritualistic. Showing no remorse, only a blank, terrifying detachment. Coincidence? Or the perfect storm, a psychopath weaponized by techniques honed in MKUltra labs, unleashed on an unsuspecting world? And what about the others? Ted Kaczynski, broken by Harvard's MKUltra-linked psychological torture, retreats to the woods, building bombs fueled by paranoia meticulously instilled. Timothy McVeigh, exposed to experimental drugs during military service, part of the MKUltra legacy within the DoD, later blows up the Oklahoma City Federal Building. The blank stare. The lack of coherent motive. The chilling detachment. We call them lone wolves. Monsters. But what if they were also products? What if MKUltra wasn't just about interrogation, but about exploring how to create the perfect assassin? The perfect pliable weapon? The perfect patsy? The program officially ended, but the knowledge, the methodology, that escaped the shredder. MKUltra ended in 1973. That's the official lie. Comforting. A dark chapter closed. Look at this. The most sophisticated mind control device ever conceived. And you paid for it. You carry it voluntarily. You crave it. MKUltra dreamed of this. This little rectangle tracks your every move. Listens to your conversations. Maps your relationships, your fears, your desires. You pour your deepest thoughts, your vulnerabilities, your identity into it daily. Algorithms, born from the same behavioral science MKUltra funded, now predict your choices, manipulate your emotions, herd your attention better than Gottlieb ever dreamed. They don't need to dose your coffee anymore. You mainline the manipulation yourself. Social media isn't just connection, it's mass behavioral modification on a scale MKUltra could only wet dream about. Validation engineered to addict. Outrage curated to divide. Attention fragmented to disempower. It's MKUltra perfected. User-funded. user-operated, and utterly inescapable. Guantanamo Bay. Enhanced interrogation techniques, sensory deprivation, sleep manipulation, psychological disintegration. Sound familiar? It's straight from the MKUltra playbook. Pages Gottlieb wrote. Techniques tested on Linda, on Frank, on those prisoners in Kentucky. Now applied with impunity to enemy combatants. The methods didn't die, they were institutionalized, militarized. The technology changed. The intent? Control. Submission. The erasure of the autonomous human mind. Your smartphone is just the delivery system. The battlefield is now inside your skull 24/7. But let's bury the comforting myth of 1973 once and for all. Found it. Buried deep. CIA internal memo. 1984. 11 years after Helms ordered the Great Shredding. 11 years after they told Congress it was over. Listen, MK Delta operational results, particularly in target acquisition and behavioral predictability through pharmacological and subliminal means, exceed initial projections. Recommend continuation under revised classification protocols and funding channels. Revised classification. Continuation. Exceed expectations. It never stopped. They just buried it deeper. New names. MK Delta. Project Often. Blackbriar. Darker budgets. Tighter secrecy. Same goals. Control. Domination. The eradication of free will. Think about the headlines that haunt us. The mass shooter with no history, no motive, just that vacant, 1,000-yard stare. The lone wolf, terrorist radicalized impossibly fast online. The decorated soldier who inexplicably turns their weapon on comrades or takes their own life. We scramble for easy answers, video games, mental illness, ideology. Sometimes, maybe. But what if the answer is colder? What if some of these shattered minds, these violent eruptions, are not random? What if they are the inevitable, horrific fallout of a 70-year war waged in the shadows against the very concept of human autonomy? What if the behavioral predictability mentioned in that 1984 memo wasn't just about spotting enemies, but about creating them? Or creating the perfect, blank slate operative? So here we stand, surrounded by the ghosts of Linda MacDonald, Frank Olson, and thousands more whose names we'll never know. Haunted by the signatures on documents ordering their destruction, both physical and mental. The same agencies that tortured them, that murdered Frank Olson, that shattered Linda's world, are still here. Bigger and richer. More technologically sophisticated than Gottlieb could have ever imagined. Less accountable than ever. They aren't just watching you through that device in your hand. They are inside it. Shaping what you see. Manipulating what you feel. Steering your outrage. Your desires. Your very perception of reality. The algorithms are the new LSD. The data stream is the new sensory deprivation tank. And we line up, eager for the next hit. The question isn't if government mind control exists. That ship sailed in 1953. The evidence is here. Written in the blood of victims and the cold ink of bureaucracy. The real question, the only question that matters now, is this. Are you awake enough to recognize it when it's happening to you? Are you conscious of the strings? Can you feel the subtle pressure on your thoughts? The manufactured outrage? The curated fear? The engineered division? Or are you sleepwalking, believing the illusion of choice while dancing to a tune composed in Langley and amplified through Silicon Valley? Because right now, in some windowless room buried deep beneath mountains or behind unmarked doors, researchers funded by budgets you'll never see are asking the same question they've been asking for 70 years. What if we could control the human mind completely? What if we could predict, direct, and ultimately own human thought, emotion, and action? What if they already do?